All right, we're going to go on a little journey today, a trip back in time to uncover the real origin story of artificial intelligence. And trust me, it starts way, way before the code, the silicon chips, or even before the word computer meant what it means to us now.
So let's just start with this. When I say AI, what's the first image that pops into your head? For real. Is it some kind of sci-fi robot? Maybe the virtual assistant on your phone? Or is it one of those crazy powerful algorithms that knows what movie you want to watch next?
Whatever you just pictured, I'm willing to bet it's something from the last, 20 years or so. But the real story, the actual origin of AI, it didn't start with a gadget. It started much earlier, with a single, totally radical idea.
And this idea, it was so far ahead of its time, it really could have only come from the mind of one of the 20th century's absolute titans, Alan Turing.
Turing's whole thing revolved around this core concept he called computability. And here's the gist. It's this profound insight that if you can break any process down into logical steps, doesn't matter if it's using numbers or symbols or whatever, a machine can do it. Just think about that for a second. Any logical process can be automated. This idea is the bedrock of literally everything.
Now to prove this, Turing didn't go into a lab and start soldering things together. Nope, he just imagined a machine. It's the famous Turing Machine. And really, it was just an abstract model. A machine reading and writing symbols on an infinitely long tape. But its theoretical power was immense. In theory, it could compute anything that was computable.
But here's the thing. This wasn't just some academic thought experiment. This purely theoretical idea was about to become a very, very real, history-altering tool.
You can literally trace the line from his mind to the real world. It starts with the theory, right? The conceptual Turing machine. That directly inspires the invention of the first ever programmable computers. And what was their very first top-secret application? Something monumental. Cracking German secret codes during World War II, a project that Turing himself was at the heart of.
You know, we totally take this for granted today, but you have to understand just how revolutionary this was back then. Before Turing, if you wanted to do a different task, you had to build a whole new specific machine for it. The idea that you could have one single, universal machine that you could just program to do a bunch of different things, well, that changed the entire world.
Okay, so the hardware is there, the core theory is in place. But this new field of study, it didn't even have a name yet. Well, that was about to change. And with the name came a whole new identity.
So now let's meet our next key player, John McCarthy. Fast forward to 1956. He gets a small group of the smartest researchers he can find together for a summer-long workshop at Dartmouth College. And their goal was, not ambitious at all, just to figure out how to make machines think. But first things first, they needed a name for what they were trying to do. McCarthy's suggestion? Artificial intelligence. Yep, and it stuck. But look, this event was about so much more than just coming up with a cool name. It was about defining a core belief, a fundamental idea that has been the engine for all AI development ever since.
See, in the funding proposal for that now famous conference, McCarthy wrote one absolutely crucial statement, a single sentence that basically became the guiding principle, the North Star for the entire field of AI. And here it is. Every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence can in principle be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. Just let that sink in for a moment. I mean, that is a massive, audacious claim to make. So what's he really saying? In plain English, McCarthy was arguing that intelligence isn't some kind of magic. It's not pixie dust. It's a process. And any process can be broken down into small, simple, almost mechanical steps. And if you can just describe those steps precisely enough, you can write a computer program to simulate it.
And this is how those two giant ideas fit together so perfectly. You see, Turing gave us the foundation. He asked, what is even possible for a machine to compute? Then McCarthy came along and built right on top of that, asking, and is human intelligence something we can describe well enough for one of those machines to compute it? You absolutely need both of those pieces for AI to even exist.
Okay, so you have this incredibly ambitious goal to simulate human intelligence. Where on earth do you even start to test that idea? Well, for the early pioneers, the answer was surprisingly simple: a playground of board games.
Now, I know what you're thinking. It seems a little strange, right? You've got this world-changing idea about recreating the human mind, and your first big project is checkers? Why would you start with simple board games?
Well, it turns out there were some very practical, very smart reasons. See, unlike our messy, unpredictable real world, Games are a perfect laboratory. They have clear, fixed rules. They're what's called a restricted domain. This made them the absolute ideal environment to test the very first algorithms for really complex stuff, like searching for the best move and planning ahead. And they offer this perfect ladder of difficulty for researchers to climb for decades, starting with checkers, moving up to chess, and eventually to the ridiculously complex game of Go.
So yeah, for these pioneers, this wasn't really about having fun. It was all science. It was about taking a very complex problem, strategy, foresight, planning, and trying to solve it inside a clean, controlled, digital world. And that brings us full circle, because every single time your phone suggests the next word you're about to type or an AI helps researchers discover a new life-saving drug, what you're really seeing is the legacy of these two powerful historical ideas. From Turing, you get the principle that complex processes are computable, and from McCarthy, you get the audacious belief that intelligence itself is just one of those processes.
But here's a final thought to leave you with. These founding ideas, they're over half a century old now. So the real question is, how much of the incredible, mind-blowing AI we see all around us today still fundamentally runs on those same core principles? And as we look to the future, what does that tell us about where this whole thing is headed?